Hello, 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 and welcome to tonight's episode of The Invisible Woman. I am your host, Joyce Williams, and you are watching The Invisible Woman Talk Show. Thank you so much for choosing to tune in with me tonight. Thank you so much for the love and the support and everything that you guys have done, subscribing to my YouTube channel, The Invisible Woman Talk Show, following my social media pages, The Invisible Woman. Yeah, so thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate that. We're gonna hop right into it. Make sure you grab your snacks, grab your girlfriends, like, share, subscribe, do all that for this show because this show is your show, The Invisible Woman Talk Show. We'll be right back right after this commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to tonight's episode of The Invisible Woman. I am your host, the incomparable Joyce Williams. Um, I just want to get right into it. I was, scrolling through my Facebook and I saw this picture that was posted. And on this picture, it was a couple and somebody titled it Beauty and the Beast. Okay. And the thing was, they were saying that the guy was beautiful. He was an attractive guy. He was deemed to be attractive. And the woman was looked at as not as attractive. And, the comments went on and on about, how did she pull him? What is he doing with her? She doesn't deserve him. It was just, oh my gosh, you guys, they just dragged this woman. She was the beast, and they just dragged her through the mud because it was in their eyesight that he was way too attractive to be with a woman like her, to be with her, and it was, yeah, not good. And I understand that, we all have our standards of what is beautiful and, what we think is attractive, but it's not fair to put that on somebody else to say that they don't deserve someone because you think that they don't look a certain way. Now we're talking about that. We're talking about imposter syndrome. That can cause imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when one partner believes that they're not good enough for the other. It's a type of insecurity that, leads a person to believe that their partner will leave them when they realize that they're not that great. It's an insecurity within yourself. And so a part of imposter syndrome is feeling that you need to maintain a perfect image for your partner. You got to look a certain way. You got to dress a certain way because if you don't, you're going to lose them because you're not perfect. People with the imposter syndrome disorder, they have difficulty forming healthy relationships because they constantly worry about losing their partner. They struggle with insecurity, with self-doubt, and with the fear of being identified as a fraud. Hence the term imposter. We will be right back with more Invisible Woman right after this break. We're talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. Do you feel like an imposter? Do you feel like you are pretending to be someone you're not? And that is, I understand that can happen in other aspects of your life as well. Maybe with your work, maybe with your education. It's not just for relationships. But for this episode, we're talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. And the people that it tends to affect the most are people that are perfectionists. They consider themselves, they're highly perfectionist people. They just strive to do everything right because they may have learned in their childhood that you can't make mistakes. You can't afford to make mistakes. Making mistakes is, not good. And which is, that's true. But we're all allowed to make mistakes so that we can learn, so that we can grow. But if you feel like making a mistake is the end of the world for you, your life is over. You're a perfectionist. And you may have been in your childhood, you may not have been allowed to mess up. Your parents drilled into you like you got to make all A's. You have to be this, you have to be that. And they punished you when you did make mistakes. So now you've grown up into this adult and you're afraid to make mistakes. You're so afraid of failure that it's scary, and it's ruining your life to where it's just like understand that, don't get me wrong, understand that making mistakes and afraid of failure is a real thing. It's a real thing. And it's scary to know that, oh my gosh, I messed that up. I can't undo that. What am I going to do now? You have to be okay when you do mess up, because mistakes are going to happen. And with imposter syndrome, you feel like if I mess up, then people are going to see that I'm a fraud. People are going to see that I'm not who I say I am. I'm not as smart as I pretend to be. You're not allowing yourself the opportunity to grow from your mistakes because you're overthinking and you're being an overachiever and you're feeling as if you are inadequate when you are making a mistake. We'll be right back with more Invisible Woman right after this short break. Stay tuned. My name is Joyce Williams, and I'm the host of the Invisible Woman Talk Show. Life doesn't always give you flowers. That's why you should tune in to the Invisible Woman Talk Show. It'll help empower you to find your inner strength to bring out the beauty in you. JWInvisibleWoman.com, the Invisible Woman Talk Show. Welcome back to the Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. Imposter syndrome affects perfectionists. It affects people with low self-esteem. It affects people who feel like they've gotten where they are because of luck. They've gotten where they are because of who they know. People that suffer from low self-esteem and low self-worth. They feel like that they don't deserve happiness. They feel like they don't deserve someone good in their life. They don't deserve a good job or nice things for them, nice things for them. They just feel like I'm getting what I deserve, because I'm pretending to be something that I'm not. And it really affects their self-esteem. It really affects how they see themselves and their value. So it hurts their relationships. It hurts your relationships when you don't see yourself as an equal partner. You don't see yourself as adding anything to the relationship. You see yourself as less than. And so that really affects your relationship. Someone who constantly has to, give you that boost of confidence to let you know, to reassure you that, hey, I value you, I appreciate you. You're not worthless. You are worthy. So you have to constantly get that reassurance when you're suffering from imposter syndrome. Some of the symptoms of imposter syndrome is, feeling like you can't make your partner happy or you can't keep your partner happy. Believing that that you must be perfect in order to keep, the person that you're with, or, they're going to leave you if you're not perfect. The fear of feeling like you're not good enough for your partner. It's like, or they will eventually leave you. Oh my gosh, once they find out that I'm not who they think I am, they're going to leave me. It's like you do things that you don't want to do because you worry about your partner abandoning you if you don't. It's scary to live in that fear of imposter syndrome, of frequently worrying that you're disappointing your partner. It's or you have a hard time accepting criticism because you're already down on yourself enough as it is. So when somebody else is trying to give you, that lovable, constructive criticism, then yeah, it's also feeling like you don't deserve attention or affection from your partner, from anybody, especially like if you're on the job and you get recognition in front of everyone. You start feeling like, I don't deserve this. Maybe somebody else should have been chosen. You don't feel like you are the perfect candidate. You don't feel like you worked hard enough. Even though you did, you worked hard to get to where you are, but you feel like, I didn't. I'm an imposter. They don't know me. And you feel like once people really know who you are, that they're going to abandon you. That they're not going to want to be your friend. They're not going to want to be with you. You know, they're not going to accept you. And so you are in your head pretending to be something that you're not, somebody that you're not. And you feel like you are an imposter. You're suffering from imposter syndrome. We'll be right back with more Invisible Woman right after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. In relationships, imposter syndrome can cause a person to self-sabotage their relationship. Self-sabotaging, you know, when you are the culprit, the one that is ruining your relationship because your own insecurities. It's You're so insecure that you feel like, you know, if as soon as they find out that, you know, I'm not who they think I am, I'm not what they believe, then they're gone. And so it calls you to put that wall up. It calls you to, you know, have a fear of people getting too close because you don't want them to identify you as a fraud. You don't want them to think you're counterfeit. Right. Now, back when I was growing up, they had these sprays, and these sprays were like perfume, and you know, they were perfume sprays, and they were patterned after designer fragrances, and so they had a designer fragrance smell. I put it in quotation marks because some of them didn't quite match up, you know, but they were attempting to replicate they were intending to replicate the name brand. So they created a similar like brand. And so I think that a lot of people, they feel like, you know, they are a similar like version and not the authentic true version. And so they start thinking that when somebody gets so close to them that they'll realize, wait a minute, this person is not authentic. It's kind of like when you have a designer bag, or when you don't have a designer bag, you have a designer look-alike bag, what they call a knockoff, you know, and you're afraid that if somebody opens it up, because, you know, a lot of times you can't tell from the outside, but when you open it up, you can definitely tell from the inside that it's not, you know, a real bag, you know, the real thing. And so they're afraid that if you open me up, you know, if I get too close to you, you're going to see that I'm a knockoff. I'm not the real thing, you know? And so they put their guard up and they protect themselves. And that means that you have an emotional wall up that you won't let anybody else in. You have to tear that wall down. The wall needs to come tumbling down, because otherwise you're going to end up alone and pushing everybody away. You're going to end up alone and pushing everybody away. And then you may end up settling for an abusive relationship because you feel like that's all you deserve. You feel like that's all that's meant for you. You start settling for less than jobs. You start settling for living in neighborhoods that, you know, aren't up to standards. You start settling for things because you feel like you don't deserve anything better. You don't deserve anything more. But that's not true. That is so far from the truth. You know, you deserve good things. You deserve positive things to happen for you. You deserve, especially when you worked so hard to accomplish everything. So stop allowing that negative thinking to overtake you to where you feel like you don't deserve what you've earned. We'll be right back with more Invisible Woman right after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. Now, when you start thinking of those I'm not worthy and I'm an imposter and all this negative thoughts that you're having, then you can combat that with affirmations. You can start thinking about all the things that you are, all the things that you have accomplished, all the things that you do are that you have been successful at. Once you realize that some of those thoughts are simply a result of imposter syndrome, once you're able to recognize that, then you can begin to identify the thoughts and replace them. So when you struggle with imposter syndrome, it's easy to get stuck in a pattern of negative thinking. Woe is me. Break the cycle by using daily affirmations. When you find yourself struggling with imposter syndrome, then, start thinking positively. Start using your affirmations. Start thinking about all the things that you do have, bring to the table that are valuable, all the things that you have accomplished. Remind yourself of how kind you are. Remind yourself of your past successes, of how beautiful you are. Focus on all the positive qualities. And that way you can get that negative thinking. Replace those negative thoughts with positive thinking and affirmations. And do not compare yourself to other people. We say that all the time. Do not compare yourself with other people. I had to repeat that just so you can hear it one more time. Do not compare yourself with other people, because that right there is going to make you crazy. I was she did this at this age, and here I am at this age, and I haven't accomplished that, or that was done at whatever. No, that's them. If they did it then, that's great. That's fantastic. Round of applause. But don't put yourself down. Or I actually saw a lady. You know what? Let me just talk about myself, because this is true. And I was saying how I was how I finished college. I got my degree, and in my 40s, in my mid 40s, and I went back to school and got my degree, and I was happy, but I was also ashamed, because I felt like, here I am, I'm an adult, I'm grown, and I'm just finishing school. Like, it just kind of was like, other people have done that, been there, done that, and here I am just now doing it. And I had to stop to say, stop comparing myself to other people and start appreciating my accomplishments, because it was hard. It was hard, and I think it was even more difficult because I had more things on my plate, as in my everyday life. And so it was very hard, and it was challenging trying to get my work done, and it was challenging, and using my 40-plus-year-old brain to do this work that teenagers are doing. So I had to stop minimizing my accomplishments. And if that's you, then stop minimizing your accomplishment. Like I said, don't compare yourself to other people. It'll start making you feel inadequate, and that's not good. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. And chances are, people are looking at you like, oh my gosh, I admire her. She's so strong. I can't believe that she's raising these babies, and she's, working this job, and she's going back to school, and she's doing, she's a wife, she's a mother, she's doing all these things. And they look at you thinking how strong you are, while you're over there comparing yourself to somebody else singing, woe is me. Somebody's looking at you, and they are inspired by you. So don't compare yourself to other people. Celebrate your accomplishments. Celebrate, where you are and how far you've come. We'll be right back with more Invisible Woman. Stay tuned.
Ay, candy stove, sweet like sugar. Down south, shorty, she a looker. Ay, from the dirty, let us crook it. It's a bag, better book it. See the pigs, better book it. I ain't looking stupid on the late night, no.
Welcome back to The Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. Learn to identify your triggers. Learn to identify what it is that is making you feel inadequate, whether it is a personal relationship, our business relationship, friendship, whatever it is, there are certain things that are making you feel that way. And when you learn to identify that, it'll be easier to get it, whether you're struggling with, whether you find out it's social media, or it's a family member, it's a friend, or whatever it is, whoever it is that is causing you to feel inadequate, you identify that, and that way you can limit their access to you, and that way you can start to heal. Once you identify your triggers, you can know what it is that you need to do in order to start the healing process, and that way you'll be able to recover from imposter syndrome. Okay, because people with imposter syndrome, they tend to be high achievers, and they think they never deserve a break. Some people with imposter syndrome, they tend to be overachievers. They just feel like they don't deserve a break. They're always so hard on themselves. They just push, and they barely take time for rest. And they don't take time for recovery. And they don't and they be hard on themselves. But let's focus on you. We're talking about you. Yeah. But what we're going to do is learn how to forgive ourselves. Because once that feeling of imposter syndrome creeps in, we make mistakes. We tend to make mistakes. Like something as small as like forgetting to take the trash out, or it makes you feel like you failed. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't turn off the light. I didn't, do this before. It's a lot. And you start feeling like, I'm a failure. You start beating yourself up. You start, being down on yourself because you didn't do something that just simple stuff. Like, no, everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. Forgive yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Just, get it taken care of. It's not a big deal, okay? Don't beat yourself up. Let go of the need to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfection. Like, no. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. Stop pressuring yourself. And that way, once you take that pressure off of yourself, you can just be. You can stop being what you consider an imposter. And you can just be. And that way, when you do happen to fall short, then you won't feel like a fraud. You won't feel like a failure. You won't feel like a counterfeit. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be ups and downs. But the main thing is to focus on being there, being present in a relationship, looking at all the things that you are, looking at all the things that you have accomplished, looking at how far you have made it. Let's celebrate you. Let's celebrate where you're not, or where you come from, where you used to be, but you're not there anymore. So let's celebrate that versus, oh my gosh, I have so much more to do. I have so much further to get to where I'm going. So let's stop and celebrate where we are, like the accomplishments that we have already made. We'll be right back with more Invisible Woman right after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. Even though the, social media post was trying to degrade this woman and her relationship, saying she wasn't worthy, saying she didn't deserve that, that is not what I'm saying is the imposter syndrome. What I'm saying is the imposter syndrome would begin if she started believing that herself, if she started to internalize what they were saying, if she decides that, if she starts believing it, and then within herself, she starts saying, you know what, they're right. I'm not the right fit for him. They're right. I don't measure up. I'm not, that kind of thing. So when this starts to become internal and you start to believe the negative comments and all that negativity, then that's when it becomes, you start feeling like an imposter. You start feeling like you are not worthy and like you don't deserve, the person that you're with, or you don't deserve the credit that you're given, the award that you receive, the accomplishments that you have achieved. And that's when an imposter syndrome takes effect. Adequate. But that particular situation, I say with the Facebook post, I think that, had that, I'm sure she probably saw those comments and started thinking to herself, man, I'm really hoping that she, even if she saw those Facebook comments, that she looked at them and was kind of like, you know what, y'all don't know me. I do deserve this. I hope that she was able to, still feel like she was worthy. And I remember starting a job, and one of my coworkers told me, she was like, girl, you're really good at this job. You're doing an amazing job, really good. And I was just like, thank you. And I was like, and I got a chance to, see her in action. And I was like, you're really good at your job too. She was like, well, I'm just faking it till I make it. And I was like, well, how long have you been here? And she was like, well, about 6 years. And I was like, well, you're good at faking it, because baby, you are making it. You're no longer faking it, you're actually making it. And so, to hear her say that, she felt like, I'm just gonna go and say she felt like she was an imposter, because you're faking it. You're saying you're faking it. So you feeling like an imposter, you're feeling like you don't deserve to be there. You've been there for 6 years. I'm like, apparently you're doing something right. So let's just not continue to say I'm faking it. You're just doing it. Don't shortchange yourself. Don't sell yourself short that, I'm just faking it till I make it, when you are actually doing it. You're doing it. We'll be right back with more Invisible Woman right after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Invisible Woman. We are talking about imposter syndrome in relationships. So if you've done all that you feel that you know how to do, you've done your affirmations, you've done, you believe in yourself, but you just still cannot get over being that feeling of not being enough, that feeling of being inadequate, then it may be time to seek professional help. Therapy is a good thing for you. Counselors are there. People are licensed to assist you. That way you can get the healing that you need if you're not able to get out of that funk yourself. So we say yes to therapy because sometimes it's needed. There are people who are professionals and able to assist you. So don't, shy away from the help that you can get to become a better version of you. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for everybody that subscribed, for everybody that liked and shared the page. Thank you so much for taking out this time to spend with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. It has been an awesome night. Thank you so much for everyone that took the time to tune in and watch the show. To everybody that's going to watch the show later on, thank you so much for being a fan of The Invisible Woman. It is people like you that have inspired me to keep this going and to continue, with another season. So we're on season 3, guys. We here. I didn't even know I was going to be here, but here I am. So I appreciate each and every person that supports me. Thank you so much again. Tune in next Monday for another episode of The Invisible Woman. God bless and good night.